If you've been stuck at the same number of clients for a while now, you're probably wondering what you're doing wrong. What's crazy is that most PTs make the exact same mistake as each other, but they don't even realize they're doing it. It doesn't matter how good your programming is. It doesn't matter how qualified you are, how charismatic you are, how good looking you are. If you do not tell people that you exist, they won't know. Most PTs think that their skills are what's going to bring them clients. And long term, that might be true. But in the short term, it doesn't matter how many skills you have if nobody knows you even exist. The thing you need right at the beginning is to get your name out there. And that means volume. You need to be in front of as many people as possible, as often as possible. Think of your business like a funnel. Conversations go in the top, clients come out of the bottom. The problem for most PTs isn't what happens inside the funnel. It's simply that there's not enough initial conversations with people that can then bleed through into new clients. Here's what that looks like in my business with real numbers right now. I know that if I post 1,500 flyers, I get 1 inquiry. So to get 5 inquiries, I need 7,500 flyers. Now, of those 5 inquiries, 4 do trial sessions typically. And then out of the 4 that do trial sessions, 3 become clients. So I now know from that initial 7,500 flyers I posted, I've now got 3 clients. Now do the maths on that. How many flyers do I need to post to get 1 client on average? 2,500. So I know that I can finish making this video right now and I can spend the next 2-3 days, maybe 4 days, because it's quite a lot, posting flyers, get to 2,500, and on the balance of probability and given the data that I've collected over the last year, I am likely to get a new client. But think of the numbers I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the thousands, the tens of thousands. Most trainers will throw 50 or 100 flyers out by a train station and then wonder why it hasn't worked. When you are just posting a few flyers here and there and handing them out for people at the train station, that's not a strategy. That's just like a hit and hope lottery ticket. You would be lucky if 1% even look at it. I know for a fact when I'm walking out of a train station or in and around a train station, I don't like people handing me things. To be honest, I don't want to talk to you. I'm not gonna lie. I want to go get my train. That's why I'm at a train station. I'd rather not be in a train station right now. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather be sat on my couch watching the World Cup. But no, I'm in a train station because I've got to go somewhere. Sweet. But don't make it worse for me by handing me things. I don't need it. I don't need it. You know? So the reason I post flyers through people's letterboxes is for that exact reason. Because that flyer then engages them in a time and a place where they're more receptive to it. Don't get me wrong, there's a bit more legwork for me. But again, I've really gone off on a tangent here, but fucking hell, posting, handing out flyers at a train station, that's not a good strategy at all. Going back to the volume, it doesn't have to be flyers, right? It can be calls. I built most of my career, my client base, on the back of calling through the members of the gym that I worked in. Now, let's say you've got a list of calls, a list of people that you can call through. It might take 20 calls for even 1 person to pick up, right? So now imagine how many calls do you have to do to get 10 people to pick up? And how many of those 10 can you then get in for a trial session? How many of those trial sessions can you then convert into clients? You then start to see that the initial number going in the top of the funnel is hundreds, maybe thousands. That number can reduce based on luck and also your skill, which will come in time. The reality is that a lot of PTs struggle with this, whether it's making hundreds of calls or in my case, posting literally tens of thousands of flyers or going up to people in the gym or outside of the gym and speaking to 500 people over the course of a month, right? And it's not necessarily because PTs are just lazy, but it can be quite uncomfortable putting yourself out there like that, especially if you're not necessarily in that moment in time feeling super confident within yourself, going and then trying to sell personal training, which is quite a personal thing to sell. It can be quite a challenge to overcome mentally. I get that. That's another reason why I like to post through letterboxes rather than approaching people. For me, I've never found success approaching people like one-to-one cold. It's not really where my skill set lies. However, I drew that conclusion after trying it loads, right? I didn't just have one bad interaction and then thought, oh, I'm never going to speak to someone again. No, I did loads, hundreds. We're talking hundreds of attempts, right? And I figured out over hundreds of attempts, there's a better way for me to do it, right? That can also be a geographic thing. They can also change based on that. But the other way that you've got to look at this is that very, very, very few of your competition are going to push past that discomfort, right? I know trainers who build their client bases simply by just going and walking up to people on the street. Doesn't matter if they've got a gym membership, doesn't matter. They are just so good at just speaking to people. It's essentially like trying to pick someone up in a bar. They're so good at doing it that they don't need any of this other stuff. They don't need flyers or calls or anything. They just go up to people and manage to sell personal training. You might be able to do that, but you'll never find out if you just don't get the numbers in, if you don't get the reps in. What would you tell a client? You would tell your client, don't worry about the results in the first month, 2 months, 3 months. You're a newbie, you're a beginner. You've got to get the reps in, hundreds of reps, thousands of reps, tens of thousands of reps. The same goes for you when you're trying to get clients. Outbound marketing is a pure volume game. So one other way that you can look at this is don't be a hypocrite. Don't be telling your clients, give it time. You've only done this. You've got to still do this. There's loads more work, but then you don't do the work when it comes to your marketing. That's hypocritical, right? Like I say, at the moment, I get my clients predominantly from flyers. In the past, I've done it from calls. Either way you look at it, it's still high volume, right? It's hundreds of calls or tens of thousands of flyers. Either way, it's just work, right? It's just entry level, barrier to entry work. And then once you get through it all, you should be pretty sweet. The thing is that it's not actually that much of a challenge. The challenge seems to be for most people actually overcoming how much you have to do. People are so used to having things at their fingertips that when you say, okay, you have to go post 2,000 flyers and you might get one inquiry, people have a hard time doing that. Because here's the thing, you might do that and you might not get an inquiry because your flyer was rubbish. So now you've got to maybe hand out, I'd probably test it on 5,000 to be honest, but then you've got to go print a new flyer, try that, and eventually you'll find one, maybe you get an inquiry more frequently. But there are all these aspects to it, but none of them happen and none of them work unless that initial number is big. That initial number is big, so you can put lots in the funnel, get lots of data, and then from there you can reverse engineer it and tweak things and make things better as you go. But it all starts with how much you put into that initial funnel. Remember, sales can only come from conversations, right? In this medium, right? Other businesses, fine, right? In this medium, you are only going to sell personal training after a conversation. Conversations don't happen if no one ever starts the conversation. If no one knows who you are, where you are, what you do, how you can help, that conversation never happens and therefore the sale never happens. Trainers that go from their initial 3, 4, 5 clients to the fully booked ones with 15 to 20 clients, the difference is not necessarily that one's a better coach. It's just that one marketed way harder in the beginning. That's it. And it's just a big volume of work that you have to do, but it's quite simple work. You just have to get through it. And the amount of skills you'll pick up from just doing that process alone, I think would be worth it. Even if you didn't get any clients, but you handed out 10,000 flyers or made 1,000 calls, the skill jump will be unbelievable. And that on its own would compensate you massively. Now, if you found any value in this video at all, then I reckon you should watch this one next.